All right, we're about to begin our session on education. Oh. Terrific. Thanks for joining us this morning at State of Bergen County 2012. We're here to discuss the education or state of education in Bergen County. And I'm delighted to have to my left Mr. Ed Yilmaz. Mr. Ed Yilmaz, who is guidance counselor at the Bergen Academy of Arts and Sciences,
That's
a
right.
charter school, and you'll tell us a bit more about that later.
Yep.
And to my right is Sandy Sroka, who is the interim dean, and give us your whole title, because it's
Interim
a long
Dean of
title.
Continuing Education
Terrific, from Bergen Community
from
College.
Bergen Community College, yes.
Our host this morning. So thank you so much, both of you, for being here. Let me ask you, first of all, just to tell us a little bit about what you do. Tell us about the charter school, how long it's been in existence, and why it was formed.
This is my second year at this specific charter school, but I have worked at different charter schools as well before in New Brunswick. Like 6 years ago, that's when I started. I'm actually an engineer, and my heart goes with teaching, and I have a passion in a job related to human interaction and contributing to the society. So that's what brought me into teaching. I started like 6 years ago as a science teacher, middle school science, and then I moved on to high school physics. That was my major. Then eventually, occasionally we want to change our, jobs a little bit. I moved into school counseling. This is my second year with this school, but this charter has opened, I think, in 2007. I'm working as a school counselor, and the oldest grade we have is 10th graders.
Will you grow to be a K-12 eventually?
Yes,
Yeah.
every year as they are aging, they are moving to the next level. And last year I was teaching a class about career awareness, who they are, who I am, and where do they fit in terms of their future careers to help them to make this transition.
And there's a big focus on technology.
That's right.
Arts and sciences, but it's not limited to that.
That's right. We do emphasize a lot arts and science. As a matter of fact, our 9th and 10th graders, they do use iPads. We don't have the old version textbooks. They all use the applications on the iPads, the textbooks on the iPad. There are definitely challenges since it's a new thing, but I think they make a lot of benefit considering the fact that a lot of jobs emerging are mostly technology based.
And Sandy, that's a perfect segue to what you're doing here at the college. I imagine hearing that there's a greater emphasis on technology in the feeder schools, in the K-12 system, is good news for what you're doing.
Oh, that's fabulous news, because technology is the pinnacle of education today. We're considering technology to be number one, but right behind that, and I may probably get into this a little later, is machinist. But that also needs technology to work the machines.
There's really no simple skilled labor. I mean,
Right,
skilled
it's
labor
not a
is
simple
all
skilled
about-
labor anymore. They have to know technology, they have to know computers, and if you'd like to visit our lab, we have a fabulous lab. We're in partnership with Stryker, and we have a great lab, and you'll see all the technology that is needed just to work the machines.
Tell us about the students who are coming to the programs, to the continuing, some of it's continuing education, some of it's students who are just out of high school, some of it's still students who are in high school, correct?
Correct. Continuing education, my average student is 42 years old. Right. Most of my students, most of them already have their degrees. They have an associate's degree, they have a bachelor's degree, a master's, and even some with a PhD. But they come to us usually because at that point in their life they either want to change their career, or possibly they have been downsized.
Well, these days, I mean, that's probably a lot of your...
That's so many of us have been downsized, and now they need to beef up their skills, do something different, and get moving with their lives. And that's basically what we've done. Continuing ed many years ago, or probably 5 years ago before I came to Bergen, was basket weaving, knitting, crocheting, and that's what you came to get, softer skills. But now continuing ed over the last 3 years has changed, and it is more workforce development.
And how much of what you do is driven by employers who ask for specific training programs? Or how do you work with employers?
Well, we have a special grant, and it's called an NJBIA grant. And through that grant, if an employer has 10 people, we can provide them with QuickBooks, ESL training, Microsoft Word. We'll actually send people right to the company to train people.
And Ed, how do you shape your programs as you're preparing your students? What skills do you find are going to be necessary for an education in both a specific, technological sense and also from a broader sense? How do you prepare people for a 21st century?
To piggyback from what she said, to make a smooth transition is the main role of guidance counselors, to help them through those transitions in their lives, from middle school to high school to workplace. So we try to explore a lot about their interests and skills and what they want to achieve. Definitely, lots of jobs are emerging, very new, and they are changing. So they have specific characteristics and specific requirements in terms of skills that they require. We have been hearing a lot about team working skills, cooperation, and we try to work in terms of attaining skills for them, but also in terms of technology, as she has mentioned, it's becoming a big crucial of the part of the industry. So we are trying to make our students familiar with all different types of softwares, programming language, extra school activities like robotics programs.
And how early does that start for your kids? What age, what grade level does it start?
At 7th grade, we try to get them, we try to instill awareness, like career awareness at the age of 7. We try to increase this awareness because, as you know, it's a matter of time. It might take a lot of time, so we try to get them more alert in terms of their perception. So more perceptive they are towards things that is related to building a career and choosing a career, I think they will make more precise decisions. And as we know, there's 60 to 80% of the first year of college students, they change their majors. And most of them take remedial class, as a matter of fact, at least half. So if we believe if they know where they are going, they will better prepare towards that content.
And do you think a charter school, honestly, does a better job, or how do you think a charter school is uniquely equipped to handle this kind of an education?
At this moment, I wouldn't personally be able to tell because I don't have a lot of public school experience. But as far as what I have seen, if the charter schools emphasize more on career and technical education, because as I have said, when they go to college, they are not ready for that career track. So if the charter schools focus on the fundamentals like of science, math, because I believe if a person is really good at learning something, if they know how to learn and if they have the fundamentals, they can tweak things to learn any content matter if they have the interest. That's crucial. So if charter schools focus on giving the fundamentals very well, and I think one of the main critical things that has to be instilled, the students have to be convinced that they need it. It has to be driven by the student. It has to be student-centered.
You are a public school.
It's a public school.
But do you find that the parents are more involved? What's the role of parents?
The catch for the charter schools, if that's what you are, as far as I have seen, charter schools are definitely providing more secure environment and more family environment, which might not necessarily happen all the time in all settings.
How large is your school? Let me ask.
Our school at the moment is 240 students. So this pretty family environment that all teachers know a lot about every student. So that sets the stage for a little bit closer interactions and more individualized attention to students. I think this is one of the crucial things that will bring success to charter schools, like giving individualized attention to the students. As a guidance counselor, actually, this therapeutic relation with the faculty is very crucial to be, owning their education, because they are the driving force. You cannot open their brain and
they have to want to do that.
They have to instill that.
And I know, Sandy, before you came to Bergen Community College, you were involved in public school education.
Correct, yes.
And I want you to talk a little bit about what you did in Clifton. You were in the Clifton schools.
Correct.
And the program that you developed there, and how that, we can talk about how that applies to what Ed's doing now. But tell me about your program.
Well, the program I developed there was a at-risk program. It was called APEX, Alternative Paths to Educational Excellence. And we all have acronyms in education.
Yes.
And so I developed this program for 7th and 8th graders who were struggling and who needed a little extra TLC. I was in the basic school had about 1,100 students. I took the students who really needed that extra help, the extra TLC, and I had a team of teachers that worked with me, and we developed our own curriculum, and we developed a curriculum that was a little different from the regular school. This was a pilot project in the state, and it was a school within a school.
Okay.
All right, and we did this for about 15 years until I left public education.
Let me just ask, when you say at-risk students, at risk because of what? Because of their academic achievement, because of their home life, what put those students specifically at risk?
All of those things.
Okay.
All right, it could be many things. I remember I had a student who, she was in 8th grade and she had 2 babies. And she was at risk because she had so many other responsibilities. So they put her with us, and we were a more nurturing environment. What we would do instead of, let's say we wanted to talk about bridges and how to build a bridge. Instead of just opening a book and looking on how to build the bridge, we would actually take the students to the bridge. And we would say, okay, this is how, take a look at it, draw it, and we would bring in as many different ways and things that would interest this particular type of a student. The student, when I say at risk, would be a student who had a really good IQ, but was failing, and might be 16 and hadn't gotten out of the 8th grade yet.
So what were the specific qualifications for getting into this program?
There were about 2 pages of qualifications to get in, but you had to be failing. You had to have the ability to pass. You had to be recommended by one of your teachers or a guidance counselor, and even a parent could ask to have their child put in this program.
And essentially, what you did, were there limits on class sizes? What size?
Yes.
What sizes
Oh, yeah,
did you work?
the most we would take would be 15 in each class, and we had 4 classes going at the same time.
So essentially, it sounds as if you made sure that you had excellent programs in place, you really were able to give students personal attention, all those things that we think education should do, but maybe can't do because of what budget constraints, things like that.
Correct, and the Clifton school system was very good to us. They gave us a wonderful budget in order to run the program, and it was successful. In fact, about maybe 2 weeks ago, I was walking down the hall, and I heard, "Miss Sroka, what are you doing here?" And it was one of the students who were an at-risk student, and she was now here studying to be a teacher.
What a terrific testimony to the
So,
program.
it worked.
Yeah. Now, your school does Passaic County as well. You actually have a Passaic Academy
That's right.
as well. So it's, I guess, the 2 counties are contiguous, so there's a
Right.
close relationship there. Do you find that a lot of students will come to you from the beginning because their parents want something different, or have they gone through a public school setting and maybe found that their kids need something different?
Since we have limited number of students, that since we can get limited number of students, the ones who start from beginning continues with us because we have to go through a lottery, and they know that once they are out, it's really hard to get back in. For the charters that I'm working at, the parents are very involved and they are very happy. Some of the students come and join us from later because especially at 8th grade, like 15 of our graduates go to academies like Bergen academies, Englewood academies, so we get like students from 9th and 10th as well. So they come from public schools. I wanted to mention, since we are a public school, but we do get like 15% less funding than public schools. But I think the audit system, it works really well. Our lease, like contracts, has to be like, in terms of school, I'm talking, the school has to renew it through the Board of Education every 1 year or 3 years and then 5 years. So I think this puts a lot of, it's a good control mechanism that
About the
tells
teaching contracts or
No, I'm
the
talking about
contracts?
the school to be able to run.
Oh, to be
they
able
have
to
go
receive the
through
charter.
audit,
Yeah.
financial audit, academic audit, And this, I think, something really valuable to have, which tells all the teachers and the administration, to do things very properly and in a timely manner, and whatever is required for success. I think everybody on board is happy about having a system like that, so we could work more efficiently.
Which I think is something that maybe public schools are moving more towards, is not a certification process, but certainly with the streamlining that's going on now in the county. We don't have anyone here from the county, unfortunately, but I think they're moving towards that with their centers of excellence, perhaps, and trying to make certain that there's more accountability in local schools.
Yes, they are, but you have to look at a couple things. Accountability is not necessarily testing. A student progresses at a certain rate. Students are people, they're not things. They're a little harder to measure than, does this work or not work?
Right.
But a student has a lot of variables. It has a lot of parts to a student. There's, what happens when they go home?
Right.
Some of the students, when they go home, they have no, they're lock-key students, and they go home to an empty house. And let's face it, when you were 10, 11, 12 years old, would you go home and study? Not unless your mother sat there and said,
Not unless you're motivated, yeah.
And the economy has a lot to do with that. A lot of parents, both parents have to work because of the economy. A dad might have lost his job. Mom has to go to work.
Multiple jobs.
So, yeah, so a lot, the economy has a lot to do with the students.
It's
And
partly
how
why
they react.
we try to run extracurricular activities. Like most of our teachers do after-school clubs, which last till 5:30 and sometimes 6:30. We have acting and drama club, a robotics club, chess club. You name it. There's a lot of clubs. Since the fact that we have to prepare the students, since the new mission for nationwide is like college and career readiness. Actually, as a school counselor, I'm putting in place a program called Pathway to College. One of those acronyms.
I like that.
PAC.
It has four categories like academics, athletics, character and leadership, and career. So we try to match each 4 students with an advisor, mentor, one of our staff members, or a PhD student in neighboring colleges, and they try to give feedback. What I do is I release goals every 2 weekends, let's say 50 SAT math questions, and you need to read this book, which is advised by College Board. And of course, they have to give a summary at the end of that 2 weeks, and the faculty, their advisor, meets with them at least 1 hour and goes over the stuff that if they met their goals and they have exciting, career goals. You have to go meet a leader in an occupation that you are planning to jump in and make that interview, write a summary or write a news to the school newspaper. So, and if you are planning for a part of the career program is finding an internship. We know we do postpone things, and students does that more often, and they don't necessarily have the parents who has the vision to tell them, look, you are 10th grade, now you had better have an idea making some job shadowing if you are really fitting into this track. Because as a teacher, I have seen if the students have an agenda, if they know where they are going, they are more motivated to do well, to respond well.
Well, even motivated parents, as you point out, things are changing so much that, parents, I'm a parent, I'm clueless about technology, even though I'm pretty competent, but I have nothing to compare to what my kids know.
Parents have to realize that all children are not college material, and not all children want to go to college.
Which is a tough blow for many
Which
parents.
is a tough blow, yes, it is, but plumbers do wonderfully. Electricians do phenomenally. You don't need to go to college to be successful and to make a good life for yourself. And I know that's terrible coming from a dean of a college, but there are. You can take an associate's degree in possibly the mechanics or electronic technology. And in fact, Continuing Ed ran a program with Crestron Manufacturing and the WIB and it was paid
The
for.
Workforce Investment
The
Board.
Workforce Investment Bureau, and the One Stop, which was the unemployment. And it was, the funds came out from New Jersey. And what we did is we took, Continuing Ed developed a program for Crestron on electronic technicians. And we took, I think, 10 or 15 people from the One Stop, from the unemployment roles. They were vetted, and we trained them for 200 hours on the program that we had put together. After that, after the program was finished, Crestron Manufacturing had offered every one of them a job. And it was a wonderful experience, and we've run it 2 or 3 times. And probably about 40, 45 people have gotten jobs through this program. It really, there was one guy who, he was about 42, 43 years old. He had just been downsized, didn't know what he was going to do. Here he was accepted into the program. He started the program, and within 6 months at Crestron Manufacturing had really worked himself up to a management job. And it changed his whole life.
So
It was
even
wonderful.
certainly that older Americans who are finding themselves downsized, out of work, and looking to make a career change, if you're in your 30s or 40s, you really have to learn a whole new way to think, right? I mean, how do you teach someone how to think at an age 2, just to be able to adapt more easily to technology, to understand the skills that might be needed, the teamwork that you mentioned, some of those leadership skills? How do you bring those to someone if they're a fully formed adult? Is that harder?
At this point, I think most of them 20s and 30s are pretty technologically savvy.
Savvy.
Now we have another program called the ILR, which is Learning in Retirement. That program's a little different. You know, they need their catalog. They don't get online. But we do give them courses in technology, Microsoft Word, and learning the internet and learning how to navigate the internet.
People who are still in the workforce, but maybe, I mean, you're finding a lot of people in their 50s now
Yeah.
who need to make career changes.
And we have programs that, we have a whole Cisco systems program, and we have a program on the Microsoft in the workplace. And you can take that program. And if you are out of work, the One Stop will, if you qualify, give you a grant or a waiver in order to take that program here at the college.
A lot of the programs that we're talking about, certainly everything that you do sounds,
Digital media,
Right.
web design. Yeah, we do offer this programming for web.
One of our more popular programs is the program for the web, learning how to develop your own website, and
Because people can make business out of that.
absolutely, it's a business. And
You don't need much. You can foster a home business, and what matters is the happiness of the person, like personal happiness. But we occasionally associate it with the test scores, with high academics. It's not necessarily, and the parents do that mistake, and this puts a lot of pressure on the kids. Like, success is not only top-notch grades, and as she said, students are human, and they are at different levels of potential. Success for us is meeting them where they are and moving them to one next level. That's it. Not everybody will gonna reach this level.
is your purpose, though, are you planning, once you get to the 12th grade, do you expect most of your students to be four-year college bound, or college bound to some degree?
Most of our students are college bound, but we try to let them figure out which bond they fit in, because some of them might be very skillful and like working with their hands, and as you said, electrician, plumber, if that's what will make them happy and fully functioning member of the society, and if they will be happy and we see that, we encourage that as well.
All the programs that you mentioned, and certainly the programs that you've talked about, are very intensive, labor intensive. It takes a lot of work. Your teachers work hard, I would say.
That's a lot, especially charter schools expect a lot of hard work, and our teachers, I see them very enthusiastic and they have a lot of passion, definitely.
Now, do you anticipate that tenure reform, are your teachers union teachers or outside the union?
They don't belong to a union.
They don't, so you don't have to worry about tenure reform or any of those laws?
They do have tenures though.
They do have, okay.
It was 3 years now, they changed it to I think to 4 years, but they do have the tenure rights. If they were
Do you think that will have an impact on teacher performance?
changing it from 3 to 4 years?
Yeah, the tenure law, the change in tenure that we've seen.
Uh, I do believe the teachers which come to charter schools, they know that it requires hard work, and within the time that they take their tenure, they will gonna make up their mind whether they fit in or they don't belong to a place which requires quality and hard work. So I think it wouldn't matter. Within 3 years, 4 years, it's pretty much same thing. You can tell within the first year of
They're a little more self-selecting then. In other words, teachers who come to charter schools to
That's
teach
right.
know from
They're
the beginning
self-selecting,
what
yes.
they're getting into and want that. So
Exactly.
yeah. And do you find that I guess if you could have anything that would actually prepare students better for what you're doing, what would you say would be, like as you did with the program in Clifton, what would you think would be the most important ingredient to really making a more successful student coming out of a high school?
Math and reading skills. I've seen some of the students, and they really need the basic math skills. You know, they're so used to the computer
Calculators.
and the calculator that they don't, they can't do it in their heads.
Math literacy. We have a huge
Math
issue.
literacy, yeah,
Math
is
literacy.
is crazy. And what we do at the college is we have summer programs and we have Saturday programs for students, so that the parents, if they find that the children need a little help, a little tutoring, send them up here on Saturday mornings. Or we have a program that'll run in November during Teachers Convention, so that it'll be a spot for the parents to leave their children, but the children will also get a little bit more education. It'll help them with their math and their literacy skills.
Now let's talk a little bit about affluence and the role of affluence in education, the role of money and funding. Bergen is one of the most affluent counties in New Jersey. What kind of an impact do you think this has on education? And let's start with you because you're more public focused, with a broader spectrum of the public. What impact do you think this has on education in the county, the funding?
The schools are better funded. They have better equipment. They'll have more computers. They might have the iPads, which, well, of course, they weren't around when I was in public education, but they'll have the iPads. They'll have all the latest equipment. And they can also attract maybe the higher teachers because they can afford to pay a little more. So they'll attract, they can be more picky on who they choose for their staff and their principals and the superintendents. They will have more books. As far as when I talk books, I talk literacy. Their library might be better equipped. They might be able to have Wi-Fi in the schools, which
So things which
an
may not be-
independently funded school might not be able to.
So things that might not be
afford.
absolutely, quote, necessary,
Necessary,
but certainly
but-
have an impact on education. And your funding comes from where? You mentioned that
Public
you're...
schools.
Public schools.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you said you get...
Board of Education.
Yes, but you said you get less funding than...
As far as I know, 10 to 15% less. But as she underlined, teacher quality is very crucial, and it comes down to how much can the school afford. Also, extracurricular activities, like in my charter, we do have Saturday school for students who wants to come and improve those reading and math skills, which is very crucial to learn anything. If you have those strong, concrete-based fundamentals, you can improve your knowledge in other fields. So we have after-school tutorings, pretty much like 3-4 days, and it's open to pretty much all students. You have to provide the after-school bus for those. So I think the extra funding is the resource for making this opportunity, and I think it's helping a lot.
And how do you make up for the funding gap in your school? Is it a lot of parent contribution, foundation funding from
Yeah,
parents?
we do try to use PTO, but I think mostly it is efficient running. The efficiency. I do see that the efficiency is the most important, and trying to choose the right investments is the key to manage that challenge.
Clifton was a very unique school system. They had what they called, they still do, what they call a remedial program after school. And it was a half hour after school that the teachers would take children out of class that needed the extra support and bring them in and give them the one-to-one attention that they needed. And they also, of course, had a school bus afterwards at 4 o'clock to take them home. So it's a unique program. I don't know any other school system that has a program similar to that.
And you'd mentioned remediation. I think we talked about that. There's, the numbers are really staggering on the number of students who need remediation when they hit their first year of post K-12 education.
I was in public education before I came here. And when I first came, I was talking to the president at the time, and he said to me, well, 64% of our students need remediation. I was shocked. I was shocked. And so that means somewhere we're not doing things right down below.
Kids
If
who are
that
graduating
many-
from
right.
K-12. And when we talk remediation, we're talking basic reading
Basic
and writing
reading and
skills.
math.
Reading and
That's all.
math more than,
Right.
yeah. And writing.
Well,
is-
writing skills are very necessary.
Yes.
They're exceptionally necessary because when you write, you need to write a resume, you need to write cover letters, you need to write for everything you do in the workforce. And it's a very necessary skill. Math is necessary for everyday living.
So how do we address that gap? I mean, what's the key to overcoming that huge need that's there? It looks like whether our kids come out of public schools, private schools, charter schools, whatever, that remediation is just, the need for remediation is staggering. Yeah. How do we address that? What's the magic, the silver bullet? in
I don't think
education?
there's anything magic we can do, but what we need to do is basically when the students are in middle school, more than high school, but middle school, don't let them out of middle school if they can't read, if they can't perform. If they come out of the 8th grade not able to do math, not able to perform, what's going to happen? They're only going to fail when they get to high school. So
that
I
middle
think
school
that
age is
middle
really
school is
critical.
so crucial. It's a very hard age. 7th grade is the worst. Anybody that has a 7th grader knows that 7th grade is the worst. But middle school is so very, very important as far as getting them the basic skills that they're going to use for the rest of their lives. Let's face it, if they can't do division of fractions, they're not going to be able to do Algebra 1.
I
when
know
they
all too well.
get- when they get to the high school, that poor child who couldn't do the division of fractions or whatever simple thing now has to relearn all of that and do the
And
math.
here you are in a middle school, right?
Yeah.
So,
But there's a lot of bad stigma attached to a teacher who fails kids, and
stigma attached to a teacher.
to a teacher
Who fails
who
kids.
does her job and doesn't move the student forward if he's or she's not qualifying. And there's a lot of bad stigma to a
Well,
teacher.
especially now, because
Yeah.
we're going to hold teachers much more accountable for pupil test scores. So, yeah, so how does a teacher
So I think
cope with
as
that?
teachers they have to advocate their position stronger, be more assertive, and the parents has to be more involved. And
Are there students who just can't learn? I mean, do you
special
think that there are-
needs are different situation. That's
But not special needs, but mainstream students. Are there students who just are not going to be good test takers? They're just not able. They're not ever going to really be able to perform to standards, or do you think every student is capable of achieving a minimum standard?
for the proficiency standards of the state, the majority the state is expecting something doable. That's very common sense. But as teachers, we have to expect more from students and from parents. We have to show that we do expect and we do have high standards. So when we lower our expectations and standards, that's what the students will gonna fit.
And middle school does seem to be, as you point out, it's a critical time, and yet I think as parents and as society, we kind of say, oh, they're hopeless at that age. Let's just kind of get them through it, and then when they get to be high school, they'll calm down, we can focus on them. I mean, how do you deal with
We
what
have
they
to,
are
we
in
have to
middle
hold
school?
them responsible, no matter what. They have to be aware of their choices and kept responsible, so they will see that they are being taken into account as an individual. They do count, so they have to have responsibility. So we know they have the challenge with the puberty, early adolescence, but still, as parents and teachers, we have to give them structure and accountability and responsibility to let them better prepare for the upcoming challenges, high school, then, because the behaviors sit in during that stage, and once they don't get those behaviors, it becomes harder to change.
We're almost out of time, but let me ask you both just a closing question. Do you think that in general, society in New Jersey, at least, or in Bergen County, do you think that there's more cognizance of what it actually takes to educate a child, to teach to the whole child, to focus on the child and to move them forward? Because as you point out, it takes teachers, it takes parents, it takes a real team effort to get students on a path to excellence.
So your question
Are we doing a
is
better
that-
job at that, or what do we need to do to do a better job at that?
I have lived in Oklahoma and Pennsylvania before, and I think New Jersey has high expectations and doing a good job when we compare all over the nation. But it has its own challenge, with the cost of life. The parents has to work sometimes with a couple of jobs. So I think the critical thing is parents should really understand that they have to spend quality time with their kids. That's something teachers try to do, but we are not their
can't
parents.
do
We don't
everything.
have that chemistry, that bond with them. So they will see that the students were gonna improve with their skills. They were gonna show more interest into their academics when the parents are giving that intimate relation and quality time to their kids.
And from your perspective, do you think we're doing a good job? What needs to be done to improve what we're doing to get our students ready for college and beyond?
I think we're doing a great job. We really work very, very hard. The school systems work tremendously hard. The teachers are wonderful. Every child is educable. Every child has something. And when you work with the at-risk children, you realize that, because one of the things you need to do, working with the at-risk child, is find what they're best at. Are they best at math?
And it takes time.
And it takes a little bit of time. Somebody comes in September, by September 15th, you say, okay, this is the math student. And another thing we need to instill in our students is that girls can do math.
Yes. Yeah.
That's, I'm a math person. I have a Bachelor of Science, so I'm a math science person. And when the students used to come into my math class, and when they get to be 7th, 8th grade, they'll go, I'm a girl. I can't do math. And by the end of the year, you have to instill and say, you know what, you're a girl, but you can do math.
And that's changing, don't you think?
It is.
Yeah.
It is changing.
I mean, there's a math aversion, not just on the part of girls, but really, we're kind of math averse as a society, right?
I think it's because they didn't get the math as it went along. It's trying to build a house. If you don't know addition, how are you going to do addition of fractions? So if you missed a step,
It's too
the
late
whole
before
house
you
is
know
going to
it.
come. Right, before you know it, they're lost. And then they have to go back, which is what the alternative program did. Went back and tried to fill in all the gaps for them, to try to get them to move forward.
And what you're
be
doing here at your
successful.
level at the community college is filling in some of those gaps as well.
My position here is filling in the gaps in people that are in the workforce. Right? And one of the things that we will do if we have someone who's out of work, and as you know, IT was a wonderful field about 10 years ago, but now it's kind of shut
So
down.
much, yeah.
And we get a lot of people that are in the IT field. And what do? Well, right now the health field is hiring. So we retrain them and we teach them medical coding and billing.
And again, it
So
all depends
they've
on
used their
spaces.
IT skills and they're in a career that's hiring and they can get a job, which is what my job is right now,
Well,
to make sure people
thank
get
you
employed.
both for being here. Do you have a closing comment you want to make?
Yes, thank you so much for giving this opportunity. And I would like to mention we have to work towards those skills which can be transferable, that can be transferred. We have to help kids with learning to fully function in this society as productive members, which will contribute to others and themselves. Thank you.
A moving goal, a moving target. Thank you
Yes.
both so much for being
Thanks.
here this
Thank you
morning.
so much. It was a
Thanks.
pleasure.
Thank you.